In a grand intergalactic academy, students from various alien races trained hard to become the best warriors in the universe. They studied advanced technologies and powerful combat techniques. One day, whispers filled the academy about a human who was coming to demonstrate his skills. This human was known as a Deathworlder, a term that made the alien students both curious and nervous. Jake was the name of this human. He was famous across the galaxy for his explosive expertise and fearless attitude. Many stories surrounded him, some thrilling and some terrifying. The alien students gathered in the training hall, their eyes wide with anticipation. They had never met a human before and were excited to see what he could do. Some students thought he would be weak and easy to defeat, while others worried he might surprise them in ways they could not imagine. As they waited, the students shared stories about Earth, the Deathworlder's home planet. They knew it was a harsh place, filled with dangers that would make many aliens tremble. They wondered how someone could survive there and still come to teach them. Would Jake be like them, or would he show them a completely new way of thinking? The tension in the room grew as they pondered what skills and techniques the human would bring. Little did they know, they were about to witness a demonstration that would change everything. The moment arrived when Jake stepped into the training hall, and all eyes turned to him. He looked different from the alien students, dressed in simple clothes that seemed worn but comfortable. His confident smile showed he was ready for anything. The instructors welcomed him, and the students exchanged nervous glances. What could a human possibly teach them? Jake began with a brief introduction about himself and his home on Earth. He spoke of his experiences in dangerous environments, where survival depended on creativity and courage. The alien students listened intently, intrigued yet skeptical. They had trained with advanced technology, relying on gadgets and devices, while Jake seemed to rely on himself and his skills. As the training session began, Jake pulled out various items from his bag, each one simple yet powerful. He explained the basics of explosives, emphasizing that the most effective tools don't always need to be complicated. With each demonstration, he showed how everyday materials could create massive explosions. The alien students watched in shock as he performed these feats, the sound echoing through the hall. Some students began to feel uneasy, realizing that what they considered basic techniques were much more powerful than they had imagined. They whispered among themselves, exchanging worried glances. Could a human truly be so skilled? As Jake continued, the atmosphere shifted, moving from curiosity to tension, leaving the alien students unsure of how to react. The day of Jake's first demonstration had finally arrived, and excitement buzzed in the air. The training hall was filled with alien students, each one eager to see what this human, this Deathworlder, could do. Some of the students had been discussing their thoughts about Jake's skills for days. Would he be impressive, or would he fail? As the clock ticked closer to the demonstration, tension built among them. Jake stood in front of the audience, his face calm and focused. He greeted the students with a friendly smile. "Today, I'm going to show you what explosives can really do," he said confidently. His voice was strong, and it carried throughout the hall. The students leaned forward in their seats, eager to watch. Many of them had never seen real explosives before. They had only studied them in books or learned about them through holograms. He began with a simple introduction, explaining the basics of explosives. Explosives are not just about destruction. They are tools for creating opportunities. With the right knowledge, you can turn even the simplest items into powerful devices. Jake picked up a small, unassuming piece of metal. To the alien students, it looked like a regular item, nothing special at all. They whispered among themselves, exchanging puzzled glances. What was he planning to do with that? As he worked, Jake carefully explained each step of his process. He showed how to combine common materials to create a small explosive. He spoke about safety and control, emphasizing that power must always be handled responsibly. The alien students listened, but some still doubted him. How could something so basic be powerful? They thought about the advanced technologies they used, and many were unsure if Jake's techniques could compare. Finally, the moment arrived for Jake to demonstrate what he had created. He stepped back, his face serious. "Now I will show you what this can do," he said. He lit a fuse connected to the small device and ran back to a safe distance. The students held their breaths, their hearts pounding in their chests. A few of them even covered their eyes, fearing the worst. A loud bang filled the hall, echoing against the walls. The small explosive erupted in a cloud of smoke and fire, sending a shockwave through the room. The students gasped, and some jumped back in shock. They had never witnessed anything like this before. The blast was much louder and more powerful than they had expected, leaving them in stunned silence. As the smoke cleared, Jake stood calmly, a satisfied smile on his face. The alien students looked at one another, their expressions a mix of fear and awe. They began to realize that the human skills were not to be taken lightly. This was no ordinary demonstration. It was a powerful display of human creativity and strength. Jake took a moment to allow the students to recover from the surprise. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Explosives can be used for many things, not just destruction. They can create pathways, clear obstacles, and even save lives in emergencies." He began to explain more about how to apply these skills in real-world situations, sharing stories of how he had used his knowledge to solve problems on his home planet. The alien students, initially skeptical, began to warm up to him. They found themselves fascinated by his stories of survival and ingenuity. They learned that humans face challenges with creativity, thinking outside the box to find solutions. This approach was different from what they were used to, and it opened their minds to new possibilities. Jake invited questions, and many students eagerly raised their hands. One brave student, a tall green-skinned alien named Lucor, asked, "How did you learn to use explosives so well? Isn't it dangerous?" Jake nodded, acknowledging the concern. "Yes, it can be dangerous, but learning how to handle them properly makes all the difference. I had to practice a lot and learn from my mistakes." Another student, Tara, chimed in. "Can we try it ourselves?" This question surprised Jake, but he smiled at their enthusiasm. "Of course. Safety is our priority, but I'll teach you the basics so you can see how it works." The students buzzed with excitement, their initial fear replaced by a growing curiosity. As the session continued, the atmosphere in the hall transformed. The alien students started to see Jake not just as a human, but as a skilled teacher and mentor. They began to understand that there was much to learn from him, and their initial skepticism turned into respect. They were eager to see what else this Deathworlder had in store for them. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would change their perspectives forever. Jake's unique approach would challenge everything they believed about strength and creativity. The alien students were in for a remarkable experience, one that would push them to reconsider their views on humanity and the art of war. After the explosive demonstration, the atmosphere in the training hall was electric. Jake could feel the shift in the room. The alien students were no longer just curious onlookers, but captivated participants in this unexpected lesson. As he took a moment to collect his thoughts, the students gathered around him, their faces lit with excitement and questions. But amid this enthusiasm, an air of tension remained. They were grappling with the realization that their understanding of warfare and technology might be incomplete. As the students approached, Jake sensed their uncertainty. He knew they came from advanced worlds, filled with technologies that were light years ahead of anything on Earth. "I understand if you're shocked by what you just saw," he said, smiling warmly. "On my home planet, we often rely on our resourcefulness to survive. It's not about having the best tools. It's about how you use what you have." Zara, the student who had challenged him earlier, spoke up, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. "But you make it seem so easy. We've been trained with the latest technology. Why would we need to learn from you? Your methods seem primitive." A ripple of agreement passed through the crowd. Jake noticed a mix of pride and defensiveness in their expressions, as if they felt the need to defend their advanced backgrounds. Jake nodded thoughtfully, acknowledging their point. I get that, but sometimes simplicity is more effective than complexity. Where I come from, we face dangers every day. We learn to think creatively, adapting to survive. The best warrior is not just the one with the strongest weapon, but the one who can outsmart their opponent. His words hung in the air, and the students exchanged glances. They had been taught to rely on their superior technology, and Jake's perspective was a challenge to their beliefs. Zara crossed her arms, still skeptical. So, you're saying we should abandon our training and just improvise? Not at all, Jake replied, his tone firm but gentle. I'm not asking you to forget what you've learned. I'm saying that combining your advanced skills with some of the creativity I've shown you can make you even stronger. Think of it as adding new tools to your toolbox. As Jake continued to speak, he noticed some students beginning to nod, their expressions softening. He decided to share a story from his past to illustrate his point. Once, during a mission on Earth, I faced a situation where I had to cross a heavily guarded area. I didn't have access to advanced tech, just my wits and some everyday items. I used those items to create distractions and find a way through. The students listened intently, intrigued by this real-world example. So you're saying that sometimes you have to rely on your instincts and surroundings? One student asked. Exactly, Jake said, encouraged by their interest. In a real battle, you won't always have the perfect tools or weapons at your disposal. You'll need to think on your feet, use your environment, and adapt quickly. Zara's expression shifted as she began to understand. So it's not about one way being better than the other, but finding a balance. Yes, you've got it, Jake replied, a grin spreading across his face. Strength comes from understanding and respecting different methods. Each culture has its own strengths, and we can learn so much from one another. As the discussion continued, Jake encouraged the students to share their own training experiences. One by one, they spoke of the advanced technologies they used in combat, detailing the sophisticated weapons and tactics they had been trained to master. But as they spoke, Jake gently nudged them to consider how they might incorporate creative thinking into their strategies. The students began to see their own training in a new light. They realized that while they had access to powerful tools, there were gaps in their knowledge that Jake's insights could fill. By the end of the session, the tension that had initially filled the room began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and curiosity. Jake's fresh perspective was breaking down barriers, and the alien students were starting to embrace the idea that strength did not solely lie in advanced technology. They were beginning to understand that learning from each other could forge new paths in their training and ultimately make them better warriors. As the session wrapped up, Jake could see that the students were no longer just uncertain about him as a human, but were starting to recognize the value of his experiences. They were ready to learn, and he was eager to teach. This cultural clash was turning into an opportunity for growth, and everyone was excited to see where this journey would take them. The stage was set for a transformation that would challenge their beliefs and deepen their understanding of what it meant to be a warrior. With the success of the initial discussions behind them, the alien students were now buzzing with excitement and anticipation for the hands-on training session that Jake had promised. They gathered in the training hall once more, their eagerness palpable. Some had even brought their own tools and gadgets, curious to see how Jake would integrate their advanced technology with his unique techniques. Jake stood at the front, looking at the diverse group before him. Today, we're going to apply what we've learned so far. I want each of you to think about how you can use your skills along with what I've shown you about explosives. We're going to work together to create effective solutions using both advanced tech and basic techniques. The students nodded, ready to put their theories into practice. Jake began by dividing them into small groups, each led by a student who had shown enthusiasm during the discussions. The groups would focus on creating various devices, combining the advanced technology they were trained in with Jake's more straightforward methods. In one corner of the training hall, Jake worked with Zora's group. She was the first to take the lead, suggesting they use a simple explosive combined with a targeting system they had developed. "We can create a device that can be controlled remotely," she said confidently. "It'll allow us to set off an explosion from a distance, reducing the risk to ourselves." "That's a great idea," Jake exclaimed, impressed by her initiative. "But let's think about the potential challenges too. What if the system fails or gets jammed? How will you adapt in that situation?" Zora frowned, contemplating the question. "Maybe we could add a manual trigger as a backup, just in case." "Exactly. That's the kind of creative thinking that will make you stronger as a team. Always have a backup plan," Jake encouraged her. As the groups worked on their projects, Jake moved around the training hall, observing and offering advice. He could see that the students were beginning to embrace this blend of techniques. Some students had already created makeshift devices that combined their advanced technology with Jake's explosive methods. They were experimenting with combinations that they had never considered before, and the atmosphere was filled with creativity and collaboration. In another corner, a student named Rix, known for his exceptional technological skills, was leading a group focused on crafting a multifunctional explosive drone. "We can use our flying drones to drop small charges on targets," Rix suggested, excitement lighting up his face. Jake watched as Rix expertly programmed the drone, then turned to Jake with a question. "What do you think, Jake? How can we make it more effective?" Jake grinned. "You're on the right track. But consider how the drone might be detected. Can you add some stealth features to keep it hidden? That way, it can get closer to the target without being noticed." Rix's eyes widened as he thought about the possibilities. "I can use some of the materials from our cloaking devices. That could work." As the groups continued their work, Jake noticed some students still held back, uncertain about their ideas. He approached a quiet student named Kayla, who had been watching from the sidelines. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. "I'm not sure if my ideas will be good enough," she admitted, looking down. Jake knelt beside her, meeting her gaze. "Everyone has something valuable to contribute. Remember, this is about collaboration. You don't have to be perfect, just share your thoughts, and let's build on them together." Kyla nodded slowly, encouraged by his words. Taking a deep breath, she said, "What if we created an explosive that can adapt to different terrains? We could use sensors to detect what's around it and adjust the blast accordingly." "Now that's a fantastic idea," Jake replied, beaming at her. "Let's explore that. What materials would you need, and how would you start?" As the training session progressed, Jake noticed a significant change in the students' attitudes. They were no longer just following his lead, but actively contributing their ideas. They were collaborating, combining their advanced knowledge with Jake's innovative techniques. The hall was alive with energy, laughter, and the sound of metal clanging against metal as they worked. As the day went on, the students began to present their prototypes to Jake. Each group showcased their creations with pride, explaining how they combined Jake's methods with their own technologies. Some devices worked flawlessly, while others had a few hiccups, but Jake always encouraged them to view every setback as a learning opportunity. As the final demonstration approached, Jake felt a sense of pride in what the students had accomplished. They had taken his teachings to heart and used them to innovate in ways he hadn't anticipated. It was clear that their initial skepticism had transformed into genuine respect and excitement for learning from one another. With the training session drawing to a close, Jake gathered everyone together. "I'm impressed by all the creativity and hard work you've shown today. Remember, the best warriors are those who can think on their feet and adapt. Each of you has proven that you can blend your skills with new ideas, and that's what makes you strong." The students erupted into cheers, celebrating their newfound understanding and achievements. They were no longer just alien students learning from a human. They were a team, united in their quest for knowledge and growth. Jake smiled, knowing that this experience would stay with them long after he had left the academy. As they packed up their materials, the students exchanged ideas for future projects, excited about the possibilities ahead. Little did they know, this journey was only just beginning, and they would continue to grow as warriors and as friends. After an exhilarating day of collaboration and innovation, the students gathered once more in the training hall the next day, their spirits high and their excitement palpable. Jake could feel the energy in the air as the students discussed their prototypes and prepared for the upcoming testing session. They had worked tirelessly to integrate his explosive techniques with their advanced technology, and now it was time to see their hard work in action. Jake stood at the front of the room, holding a clipboard with notes on each group's project. "I'm excited to see what you've created. Remember, this is a learning experience, so don't be afraid to experiment. Let's push the limits and see how well your designs hold up in a real-world scenario." The students cheered, their confidence shining through. They gathered their devices and equipment, ready to take their creations outside to a designated testing area in the academy grounds. As they walked, Jake could see the mix of determination and nervousness on their faces. They were stepping out of their comfort zones, ready to put their ideas to the test. Once they arrived at the testing area, a wide expanse of open land, Jake explained the plan. "We'll set up a few targets at varying distances. Each group will take turns testing their devices. Make sure to note what works well and what needs improvement. Remember, failures are just stepping stones to success." Zara's group was up first. They had developed a remote-controlled explosive device designed to be deployed from a safe distance. As they set it up, Jake could sense their anticipation. Zara took the lead, confidently explaining their approach. "We've programmed it to detonate when it senses a specific frequency, allowing us to control it remotely." Jake nodded approvingly. "That's a solid strategy. Let's see it in action." As Zara activated the device, the group held their breath. The explosive device rolled toward the target, smoothly navigating the terrain. The moment it reached the designated spot, Zara pressed the button on the controller. A bright flash lit up the sky as the device detonated, sending a shockwave through the air. The students erupted into cheers, celebrating their success. "Great job, Zara. That was impressive," Jake exclaimed, high-fiving her. The confidence that had blossomed within her during their training was evident in her bright smile. Next, Rix's group stepped up with their multifunctional explosive drone. Rix eagerly explained, "We've designed it to drop small charges on the targets while remaining stealthy. We added cloaking technology to make it less visible." Jake watched as they launched the drone into the sky. It zipped forward, showcasing remarkable speed and agility. As it approached the target, the students eagerly awaited the moment of detonation. Rix activated the device, and with a precise drop, the charge exploded on impact, hitting the target with accuracy. The group cheered, thrilled with their achievement. As more groups took turns, Jake noted how each demonstration showcased not just their individual skills, but their ability to work together as a cohesive unit. They were no longer just alien students and a human. They were a team committed to pushing boundaries and learning from one another. Finally, it was Kyla's group's turn to demonstrate their adaptive explosive device. She explained, "We've integrated sensors that will detect the environment around the charge. This way, it can adjust its blast radius based on the terrain." As Kyla activated the device, the students watched intently. The device moved towards a designated area filled with various obstacles. It paused, sensors blinking as it analyzed the surroundings. Suddenly, it adjusted its positioning, and with a low hum, it detonated. The explosion was perfectly controlled, creating a small crater but ensuring that no surrounding structures were harmed. "That was brilliant, Kyla," Jake praised her. "You really captured the essence of adaptability." The testing continued, and with each demonstration, the students gained confidence and expertise. They learned not just from their successes, but also from their mistakes. One group's device misfired, but instead of feeling discouraged, they gathered around to discuss what went wrong and how they could fix it. Jake was impressed by their resilience and willingness to learn. After all the tests were complete, Jake gathered everyone for a debriefing. "You all did an incredible job today. Each of you showcased not only your skills, but also the power of collaboration. Remember, the ability to adapt and learn from every situation is what truly makes a warrior." The students beamed with pride, their hard work paying off in the form of newfound confidence and respect for each other's abilities. They shared ideas on how to improve their designs further and continued discussing new projects, excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the academy, Jake felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He had not only taught these students valuable skills, but had also fostered an environment where they could learn from each other, regardless of their backgrounds. They were now a tight-knit group, ready to face challenges together. Jake knew that this journey had transformed them, not just as warriors, but as individuals who understood the value of collaboration, creativity, and adaptability. They were no longer just students and a human. They were allies and friends, united in their pursuit of knowledge and excellence. Little did they know that this was just the beginning of their adventures together, and the bonds they had formed would last a lifetime. With the testing phase behind them, Jake and the students felt a renewed sense of confidence and camaraderie. They had learned a lot from each other, combining their skills and knowledge to create innovative explosive devices. But as Jake looked at the eager faces around him, he sensed that the real test was yet to come. The Academy's headmaster announced an intergalactic training exercise involving multiple academies, where elite students would compete in simulated combat scenarios. Each academy would send its best team, and Jake had been invited to coach the human team. This was a chance for the students to showcase their skills on a larger stage and prove that their collaborative learning had paid off. Gathering in the training hall, Jake explained the upcoming competition. "This is not just about winning. It's about working together as a team, adapting to unexpected situations, and showing what you've learned. Remember, you are not just representing your academy. You are showing the galaxy what humans can do." The students nodded, excitement coursing through the air. They split into groups to strategize and plan their approach. Each group brainstormed ways to incorporate their explosive devices into the combat scenarios they might face. As they discussed tactics, Jake encouraged them to think critically about their strengths and weaknesses. Over the next few days, they trained rigorously, rehearsing their strategies and perfecting their devices. The bond between the students grew stronger as they shared ideas, practiced together, and learned to trust one another. Jake was impressed by their commitment and how far they had come since their initial anxiety about his presence. They were no longer intimidated. They were excited to show what they could do. On the day of the intergalactic exercise, the students boarded a transport ship, their hearts racing with anticipation. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as they traveled to the training ground, a vast, rugged terrain filled with obstacles and challenges. Jake could see the nervousness in some of their eyes, but he knew they were ready. When they arrived, they were greeted by students from other academies, all boasting advanced technology and years of training. Jake sensed the pressure building as his team prepared to compete against these elite warriors. He gathered them around and spoke to them with conviction. "Remember, you've trained hard, and you have unique skills. Don't let anyone intimidate you. Focus on what you've learned, trust each other, and adapt as needed. You are capable of amazing things." The first challenge involved navigating through a treacherous area filled with obstacles and enemy targets. Jake and the students analyzed the terrain, and he encouraged them to use their explosive devices creatively to clear a path. As they began, they faced unexpected challenges, including ambushes from the opposing teams. Zara, leading the charge, activated the remote-controlled explosive device to distract an enemy group. "This should give us a chance to slip through," she called out, her voice filled with determination. The device detonated, creating a diversion, and the team moved swiftly to take advantage of the chaos. Rix's drone soared above, providing aerial surveillance of the area. I see an enemy team to the left. We should move to the right, he shouted, guiding them away from danger. The team followed his lead, working together seamlessly as they navigated the obstacles. Jake felt a surge of pride as he watched them adapt to the situation, combining their strengths to overcome each challenge. As they approached the final part of the course, they encountered a fortified enemy position. The opposing team had set up defenses, and it seemed like an impossible task. The students hesitated, but Jake stepped forward. This is where your creativity will shine. Let's think outside the box. How can we use our explosives to breach their defenses? Keela, her eyes shining with determination, said, "What if we use a combination of my adaptive explosive and Zora's remote device? We can set the adaptive charge to trigger when it senses a specific frequency from the enemy's equipment." Great idea, Jake encouraged. Let's do it. The team sprang into action, quickly setting up their plan. As they executed their strategy, the adaptive explosive detected the enemy equipment, adjusting its blast radius just in time. It detonated perfectly, creating an opening in the defenses. The students surged forward, coordinating their movements as they advanced toward the enemy position. In the final moments of the exercise, they faced off against the last remaining opponents. The tension was high as the teams clashed, but Jake's students remained focused. They communicated effectively, supporting each other and using their combined skills to overcome obstacles. In a display of unity, they worked together to secure their victory, earning the respect of their peers. As the competition concluded, the students were filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had faced their fears, adapted to challenges, and emerged victorious as a team. The cheers of their fellow Academy members rang in their ears, and Jake couldn't help but smile at how far they had come. Gathered together after the competition, the students celebrated their hard-earned victory. They were no longer just alien students. They were warriors, ready to take on any challenge the galaxy could throw at them. Jake felt a warmth in his heart, knowing that he had played a part in their journey. As they prepared to return to the Academy, Jake realized that this experience had not only changed the students, but had also changed him. He had learned from them just as much as they had learned from him. The bond they had formed would last a lifetime, and together they had created something remarkable. A team built on trust, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. In the weeks that followed, Jake's influence continued to resonate within the Academy. The students shared their experiences and inspired others to embrace collaboration, innovation, and adaptability. They had proven that, regardless of their backgrounds, they could achieve greatness together. As they looked ahead to future challenges, Jake knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. They would continue to explore new horizons, face adversities, and grow as warriors and as friends. The legacy of their collaboration would echo through the Academy, reminding everyone that united, they could accomplish the extraordinary.